Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Build a List. As always, my name is Jay, and today I'm going to be going over a very shooty orc army that I just ran in over a tournament on the weekend. And that's what I think this is going to be, this series is going to be about. I want you guys and girls to ask me what kind of list would you want me to create, and I will create them, and then we can discuss them, the pros and cons of each one, and it will lead to overall better armies. And that's what this is all about. So, I'm going to be doing the next bunch of videos are going to be about orcs, because I love the new orc codex. I think it's amazing. Orcs are powerful. So I ran this list over the weekend. I did very well. Yeah, I'd say I did pretty well. So now I have to preface this with something. A couple of my choices are slightly off, but it's based on what I have. I'll talk about what I would ideally want to put into this list versus what I actually did, just because everything had to be WYSIWYG, and so I played with what I had, right? In a couple situations, I'd rather tweak it just a little bit. So let's go over the purpose of this list. I wanted to create a leaf blower list, basically. With orcs, you have tons of options, especially in the new codex. You can do speed freaks, a fast-hitting Shooty list. You could do horde boys, 200 boys if you really wanted to, and just bog up your opponent. You can do shooting, you can do assault, you can do tons of different variations, truck spam, battle wagon spam, biker boys, For mine, I wanted to create a very shooty army. Shooty without really forfeiting assault. Because in 2,000 point tournaments, we were told ahead of time that we would have about 2.5 hour rounds. And I don't like bringing, 120 boys or 180 boys to a tournament because it really slows things down. It really does. I love to do it. I have the boys to do it, but it really slows things down. I'll do it in a battle report because my opponent and I can take our time and film and have a great time. But in a tournament setting, it's really, it's not the most fun game. Because you spend most of your time setting up your boys and then removing your boys. And moving your boys, you can be pretty fast with such things like movement trays or just jumping the front to the back to the front to extend your lines, removing from the back as you go. But still, it really does. It's not the most fun game for you or your opponent because they just see you removing boys the whole day, and essentially you're going to target them, but it'd be fun. That being said, if you want to do it, feel free. I've seen people bring all Grot armies to tournaments, and again, it's cool, whatever you want to do. So for this particular list, my idea was I wanted to create a shooty army with very few units in a 2,000 point game, right? That way, the odds are I'm going to be going first. I really need to go first in this tournament, in this list. That being said, if I feel my opponent is going to go first, I'm going to just castle up and protect my guys, which I think this list has some defensive, like some resistance to shooting. And as I said, the amount of firepower that this list can produce is pretty insane. I really like it. So let's talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about it right now. So my list is going to be shooting. It's going to be focused on shooting, but it's going to be focused on heavy shooting. So basically, it is going to be a list that I want to blow everything my opponent has off the table. It's going to be a lot of high strength shooting, a lot of AP, a lot of D. That's what my theme is of my list. So let's start off with, when building an orc army, you should figure out what type of list you want to build. In this case, shooty. Now, there are two, I think, predominantly shooty factions of orcs, which are Bad Moons. And the benefit of Bad Moons is reroll ones to hit in the shooting phase, or Death Skulls. Now, Death Skulls, you get to reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, 1 D, every time you fire a weapon, or sorry, fire, right? So fire, close combat as well. So those two are my favorite shooty factions. Plus, if you're Death Skulls, you get a 6-up invulnerable save and objective secured. And if you're Bad Moons, you get access to a lot of really nasty, like your War Boss can take a 4-up invulnerable save. You can take the Super Cyborg, which gives your War Boss, a 5 of Film of Pain. It's pretty nasty. So what I decided to do in this list is I'm going to break up my heavy. It's going to be a double Spearhead detachment. Now the reason why I'm doing a double Spearhead is, once again, I really just want the big guns. I want the guns. I want to blow my opponent off the table. And so I broke it up into 2 parts. I'm doing a double Spearhead detachment. The reason for a double Spearhead is, number 1, it gives you more access to even more heavy support choices. Number 2, it gives you an extra command point. This is not a very command point heavy list. Only 5 command points, 3 base plus 2, 1 for each Spearhead detachment. So my first thing was I wanted to divide up my army between the 2 because I feel some of my heavy support units better fit into Bad Moons, and some of my heavy support choices better fit into Deaf Skulls. Now my army is painted Deaf Skulls, but it's okay, they can just steal the Bad Moons, right? So let's start off with the Bad Moons, because the Bad Moons are going to be most of my army. And the reason why I'm going Bad Moons for most of my army is for those who are just focused on DACA, on large amounts of firepower, Bad Moons is better. Because reroll 1s, the odds are you're going to roll a lot more 1s than you are going to, the 1 reroll to hit, 1 reroll to wound. So I'm going to start off with 2 squads of Ludas. 2 squads of Ludas in my army. Now, in this particular list, I have 2 squads of Ludas, 1 bigger squad, 1 smaller squad. The bigger squad has 14 Ludas and a Spanner Boy, and the smaller squad has 11 Luda Boys. This is not really my preferred, this is going back to my discussion, this is not my preferred configuration. I would actually prefer 15 Ludas and 12 Ludas for the same points in my list, but the reason why I didn't do that is I didn't have 27 Luda Boys, and I wanted everything to be WYSIWYG. So preferably, in an ideal situation, I do 15 and 12. The other option is what a lot of people do in a nasty world, is start with 15 and 10. The reason for this would be to use the mob up rule. So turn 1, if you go first, or if your opponent doesn't even think about it, you mob up your Ludas, which gives you a squad of 25 Ludas at leadership 25 in a giant blob, right? You can then use your remaining stratagem. As I said, this is not a very stratagem heavy list, command point heavy list, and you've already used 1 for mob up if you decide to. You can spend 2 command points to either make them fire again, or you can do the 5 and 6s produce additional attacks. And both are really scary with a squad of 25 Ludas. Plus, in games that are kill points driven, or remove a squad, makes a squad even harder to kill. Now, with Bad Moons, because these Ludas, it instantly dictates to me an HQ choice. Now, the 2 HQs that I would go with this list are a combination of Warboss or Big Mech with Shock Attack Gun. Now you could run double Big Mechs with Shock Attack Guns in this list. They do pretty well. You can choose one of them, you can give them breaking heads essentially. It's cool. For me though, I want to run a Warboss, so I'm going to have a Bad Moons Warboss in here. The Bad Moons Warboss is equipped with a Power Claw. I basically chose what's his name? The Warboss from the previous, the named Warboss, Grok Face Ripper for my model. So he has, I've given him the best armor Tifa can buy, so that way he has a 4-up invulnerable save. He has a Power Claw. He has an attack squig. He has a combi weapon, and he has the Super Cyborg. So that way, he can sit surrounded by your Ludas, keeping them in line. Now, if someone tries to assault your Ludas, he can then Heroic Intervention and bust some skulls. Plus, he has a 4-up invulnerable save with a 5-up Feel No Pain. So he's going to survive for a while. And I really like to make him my Warlord. That way it makes it really hard for my opponent to take him out unless they have a lot of snipe. So what I would usually do in this case is keep my squad of Ludas in the backfield, obviously, 48-inch range guns, keep them away, put them on an objective in a ruin, for example, and just protect them with my Warlord to keep them in line. Cool. Then up next we have the Gorkanaut. Once again, the Gorkanaut is going to be my Bad Moons faction. The reason why I want my Gorkanaut in the Bad Moons faction is because the Gorkanaut really doesn't have any D other than the rockets. But what he does have is a lot of DACA, right? 18, he has 2 guns. The Gorkanaut has 2 guns, and they are both pretty nasty. The Deathstorm Mega Shooter is 36 inch range, heavy 18, strength 6, AP -1. So once again, you're just pumping out shots. You really don't care about the reroll to wound and the D weapon because there's no D roll in this case. Second, he has the twin dick shooters, which are 36 inch range once again, 12 shots, strength 5, AP nothing, D1. So once again, just tons of volley of fire, not really caring about rerolling to wound or the D roll. So once again, in this case, between the two, which is 30 shots, the odds are you're going to roll statistically 5 ones. It really does help you in the ones in this case versus Death Skulls. Now, obviously, if it's Death Skulls, they'd have a 6-up invulnerable save. Cool. Plus the rocket launcher, once again, it's a set amount. It's strength 8, AP -2, D 3 damage, not D3. So you don't have to really worry about that. So once again, this is a very easy, for me, when allocating this list, it's very easy to put this guy in the Bad Moons category. Now, this next one is where I want to create a point of discussion with you all. Next, I have a Morkanaut. So I want a Morkanaut and a Gorkanaut. The reason is they're both specialists in different areas. Morkanaut's really good at killing is a lot more higher strength D, and the Gorkanaut is better at killing hordes of things. So combined, they can take out most things together. And what I do is I keep them right beside each other most of the time because the Morkanaut will have a custom force field which will protect the Gorkanaut. 5-up invulnerable save against shooting. So the Morkanaut can hypothetically fit into either faction. It could be a Death Skulls or it can be a Bad Moon. The reason why I'm keeping it Bad Moons is because the sheer number of shots. That being said, it can fit in the Death Skulls as well because it has a lot of high strength shooting and with strength D. So what I'm referring to is, of course, the custom Mega Blasta. Now the reason, and once again, it is nice the reroll ones with Bad Moons because they have Gets Hot weapons, right? And with Gets Hot weapons, if you roll a 1, he takes a mortal wound. So being able to reroll 1s helps prevent those mortal wounds. But he has his custom Mega Blasto, right? Which you may want that reroll or the reroll to wound or the reroll D because it is D6. But he also has his custom Mega Zappa, which is heavy D3. Strength 8, AP -3, D6. So once again, this could be a guy that you really do want to fit maybe in the Death Skulls category or in the Bad Moons. In this case, because I already have 2 Ludas and a Gorkanaut in the heavy support choice, the first one, I can move him between either side with no problems. That being said, I kept him in the Bad Moons in this case because once again, he has 12 shots with his twin big shooters. He had on average 7 shots with his custom Mega Zappa, and he had the custom Mega Blasta. And reroll 1s really helped prevent him from getting mortal wounds, and it was really nice. But that being said, I can understand why you'd want him in the Death Skulls category, because then he can reroll to damage and reroll to wound. And that is my Bad Moons detachment. So that came to about 1,160 points on my 2,000 point list. And now I have a second Spearhead detachment. And what I did was I balanced my units between my Spearheads using Killicans, because Killicans don't really gain any benefit of being in a clan. You can put them wherever you want in this list to balance out the numbers in the Spearheads. So my second Spearhead detachment, once again, is Death Skulls. So the benefits of Death Skulls, once again, you get 6-up invulnerable save, you get a reroll 1 to hit, to wound, D-roll, etc. So, for my HQ, for my second Spearhead, HQ is a Big Mech with a shock attack gun. Makes perfect sense for this part of the Spearhead detachment because the Big Mech with shock attack gun, once again, it has D6 shots, 2D6 strength, AP -5, huge, and D6 damage, right? So this is one of those guys that you really want to have that reroll to hit, to wound, and the D roll. It is huge. So in this game, for example, one of the games I played yesterday, I faced an Imperial Knight. And I got lucky with my rolls, but the Imperial Knight had a 3-up invulnerable save. I got 5 hits, 5 wounds with this big mech. I was fortunate because I rolled, I think, a 10 for strength. And so, but of course, I got my reroll to hit came into effect, my reroll to wound came into effect. And then for the Ds, he failed 3 invulnerable saves, 3-up invulnerable saves. And I rolled a 5, a 4, I think I rolled a 5, a 6 and a 4. 6 and a 4. A 6, a 4, and a 1. So of course I can reroll my one dice, chose the 1, rerolled it, got a 5. So in that one set, I did 15 damage to an Imperial Knight. And pretty much, I took it out turn 1 with this list. It was pretty crazy. So huge help. Once again, for this guy, he has a 60-inch range gun. Stick it in the backfield, stick it on an objective. He has objective secured, and he'll just pop things in the background, keep him surrounded, bubble wrapped. Your opponent won't be able to target him. It's pretty nice. I threw a fast attack in this list. The reason is I really do like the Shock Jump Dragsta. Out of all the new vehicles, it's probably my favorite, other than maybe the plain one. It's okay. I don't have it yet. And then once again, I don't have it, so I put it in models that I have. The reason why I really like the Shock Jump Dragster in this case, it doesn't fit perfectly into this list, but it has a good roll. And the reason is it's fast, right? 14-inch movement, and it has a really good gun. It 3s to hit with its custom shock rifle, 24-inch range, strength 8, AP -3, D6 damage. If you notice, that's kind of the theme to my list. I have a lot of D6 damage in this list. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm trying to make sure that if my opponents run, you know, monster creature spam, if they're running vehicle spam, if they're running anything with lots of wounds, this list will obliterate them. If they're running lots of little dudes, this list will still put a lot of damage into them, and then I still have a lot of assault to balance this out. Because remember, the Morkanon and Gorkanon are still very strong in combat, and you'll hear the rest what I'm doing in a second. So the Shock Jump Dragsta fits into several roles. What I'm going to do with the Shock Jump Dragster is either move it up and kill stuff, because once again, 2 shots hitting on 3s, reroll 1 to hit to wound, and damage roll. This thing can do a lot of damage, plus rockets. Or you can just simply hold it back for a while and then advance it, hoping to get a 4-up, and then you can deep strike it onto another objective, or you can, you know, sling it around the battlefield and kill stuff. It has a lot of rolls. The thing is about my list is it is kind of slow. It's not the fastest list. Now I do have some okay movement, you know, 6-inch or 7-inch movement with my heavy support choices, but this vehicle can serve a purpose and get me to where I need to be to block an objective, you know, to land an objective, to kill something. It'd be awesome. So, as I mentioned, Shock Jump Dragster. And then up next, I have a squad of 2 Death Dreads. Once again, these are going to be these are Death Skulls, Death Dreads, and for both of them, I've given them each a 2 Dread Claws, a Dread Saw, and a custom Mega Blasta. Now, the reason why I went with custom Mega Blasta versus the Scorcha in this case is, once again, I want shooty power, and with Death Skulls, custom Mega Blastas actually work very, very well, as we discussed. Oh, by the way, obviously, we're going back to it. Obviously, Daka roll is huge to my list, right? I'm trying to roll a lot of 6s and just produce even more and more attacks. So with custom Mega Blastas, and I think they work very, very well with Death Dreads. First of all, they're cheap, right? Second of all, you get 1 reroll to hit. So that gives you 2 shots, basically 2 chances to get a 5 or 6, and on a 6, it produces an additional attack. Like, that's insane. Additional shot. This is huge. Plus, once again, reroll to wound, reroll d6, damage. These things can pump out a lot of firepower. All of a sudden, Death Dreads make a very viable shooty model. Because, as I said, 2 of them, you can do some serious damage. Now, yesterday's in the game, I got lucky a couple times, and I rolled 6s. In one of the games, I actually rolled several games I rolled 2 hits for each one. So 2 hits out of, for each custom Mega Blasta, can do up to 2d6 damage, shooting with a Death Dread. Now, the great thing about this list is now you see my heavy support choices. Death Dreads are really good in close combat as well, so I can probably outshoot my opponent, and if they try to get in close combat, these guys can help rip them to death as well. right? Because they have strength ×2, AP -3, 3 damage each. It's pretty nice. And then up next, I have 2 squads of 4 Killicans. Now the Killicans in this list were there, I wanted to run Killicans, but they don't get any benefit from being in a clan other than they do have Daka Daka. So with them, I use them to balance out the sides. Now in this case, I kept them on the Killican side. I kept them on the Deaf Skull side for a couple reasons. Number 1, to balance out the numbers, and number 2, because if I decide to keep them back, my Big Mech can fix them. Because the Big Mech, for those of you who don't remember, it has to be the same clan to fix the vehicle. So Killicans, I have 2 squads of 4 Killicans with rockets. Straightforward. Once again, tons of AP and D. Hoping to roll, because it's 4 ups to hit. And hoping to roll some 6s and just knock out my opponents by constant damage. 3 damage per is really, really easy. So 2 squads of those. And that's it. That is my 2,000 point list. Now in the end, it only came to like 1,900 and I think I had 10 points left over. Which the thing is with this list is there was nothing else to bring in. There's nothing else to upgrade really. Oh, I put a Grot Oiler with my my Big Mech with Shock Attack gun. But that's it. So what do you think of my 2,000 point list? Now in the end, I should probably tell you the results. I leaf blew all my opponents off the table. It was a pretty strong list. And again, my opponents, I was just destroying them and shooting, and when they tried to get into assault, I was assaulting them too, because Death Dreads are really good in close combat. Killicans aren't bad. Morganot and Gorkanot are solid as well. And a couple times I actually had to get my War Boss into close combat once or twice, and he killed some stuff too. So in the end, I won my games, and it was good. It was a great tournament. But what do you think about this list, especially with the Morganot? What do you guys think? I know the Shock Jump Dragster kind of, you know what I'm saying, kind of doesn't fit in the list because it's not heavy, but it does have a lot of firepower and can move accordingly. But let's create a discussion in the comment section down below. And most importantly, what other lists do you want me to create for orcs? Give me a topic. Speed Freaks. Do you want me to create Horde Boys? Do you want me to create, truck spam? I'm going to do a bunch of different lists in the near future. What do you think about this particular list? Leave comments in the comment section down below, and as importantly, subscribe to my channel if you already done so. And as always, this video is brought to you by my Patreon subscribers. If you haven't yet checked it out, please check out the link in the description below to support my Patreon campaign. It helps me more than you can imagine. Stay tuned for more videos, and especially stay tuned for more Let's Make a List. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting.